President Donald Trump's imposition of a 55% tariff has turned French President Emmanuel Macron into the EU's economic defense strategist. A leaked draft from Washington revealed the U.S. would place a 25% tariff on French cars, 40% on wine and cheese, and 55% on Airbus parts. The immediate response from the Paris stock market was a sharp downturn, and Macron entered an emergency summit in Brussels, warning, "If we remain passive tomorrow, we will mortgage our bodies, and the day after tomorrow, our engines." This signaled that the EU was ready to retaliate. The European Union began preparing its retaliation measures and formed supply consortiums with Japan and South Korea to bypass the new U.S. customs barriers. This marked a shift in global economic power, with the EU challenging Washington for the first time on economic grounds. Let's break down what this means for transatlantic trade. What's inside Trump's tariff package? In June 2025, both sides of the Atlantic were in the midst of a fierce trade war. Trump, back in office, prepared a sweeping list of tariffs targeting everything from steel to agriculture under his fair share policy. On the other hand, the European Union braced for impact, with President Macron leading the charge. France quickly emerged as the most vocal EU member in opposing the U.S., taking swift action to defend its economic interests. When Trump's tariff proposal leaked on May 15th, the French stock market plummeted, particularly in industries like Renault, Stellantis, and Airbus. Macron immediately reacted, warning that France's economic sovereignty was at risk. Unlike traditional diplomatic approaches, Macron chose a swift and assertive response to the crisis. France's bold retaliation strategy. Macron's response was quick and forceful. France introduced the European Crisis Tariff Network, a mechanism that would impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. products if Washington's tariffs were enacted. This approach was designed for quick action, with clear lists of retaliatory measures instead of slow diplomacy. France's industrial makeup made it particularly vulnerable to Trump's tariffs. Macron quickly positioned France as the EU's leader in economic defense, emphasizing that France would not back down from defending its industries. This was a pivotal moment for the EU's economic strategy. Macron's economic defense, a strategic outreach. Macron also took his message beyond Europe. France's Foreign Trade Minister Olivier Beck proposed a supply consortium with Japan and South Korea, aiming to stabilize critical material flows like chips and battery components independent of U.S. tariffs. This strategic outreach helped France gain support from key Asian countries and sent a clear message that Europe could find new trade partners to replace the U.S. Macron's diplomatic efforts were sharp and targeted, earning praise from European trade diplomats who referred to them as French stiletto strategies. Macron also used his rhetoric to emphasize the unity of the European market, contrasting it with America's non-common wall of customs barriers. France and China. A fine balance. France's relationship with China added complexity to the trade dynamics. Macron has pursued both diplomatic engagement with China and strong defense against U.S. economic policies. This balanced approach places France as a strategic partner in Asia while challenging the U.S. in Europe. Germany, however, was cautious about France's increasing openness to China. U.S. pressure on Germany to reduce trade with China complicated matters, but Germany ultimately supported Macron's stance, particularly after considering the potential damage to European industries from U.S. tariffs. The EU's internal divide and economic challenges. While Macron took the lead, other EU countries like Spain, Italy, and Greece expressed concerns that the tariff conflict would hurt their tourism and other sectors. However, Macron's diplomatic lobbying secured support, particularly from Italy, which supported his stance in exchange for a reduction in supply chain risks in joint defense projects. The EU's financial forecasts were also impacted. France revised its 2025 growth estimate down from 4.8% to 2.9% due to the potential fallout from the tariffs. In response, Macron's government expanded its Industrial Resilience Fund, combining state funds, European Investment Bank contributions, and private pension assets to help shield French industries. Macron's countermeasures in agriculture. In agriculture, Macron prepared countermeasures against U.S. tariffs targeting French products like brie cheese, Bordeaux wine, and olive oil. France planned to tighten health and labeling standards for certain U.S. imports, such as California almonds and Idaho potatoes. These measures would comply with WTO rules, allowing France to protect its agricultural sector without violating international agreements. A shifting geopolitical landscape, NATO and defense spending. Macron's actions also impacted the defense sector. France committed to increasing its defense spending to 2.2% of GDP by 2024 and 2.5% by 2026, with part of the budget going to European defense contractors like Airbus and Nexter instead of U.S. companies. This move is likely to anger Washington, especially since Trump has long criticized allies for not contributing enough to NATO.
Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget like and subscribe for the latest updates on global politics.